Race fans, it's time to buckle in and listen to the fastest hour in racing radio. Your driver is a multi-time NASCAR winner and Hall of Famer Mark Martin. We cover racing, grassroots, history, we bench race, we talk life, and most importantly, we smash the loud pedal. It's time to turn some laps on the Mark Martin Podcast.
Episode number 42 of the Mark Martin Podcast, and we're going to go and combine years 2003 and 2004. But before we do that, make sure to head on over to that website, markmartinpod.com, markmartinpod.com. You can listen to all of the different podcasts in the archives throughout the last couple of years. You can also hit that button to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast player, Apple, Android, Spotify, YouTube, and many more. Also hit up on social media, Mark Martin Pod on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. But Mark, we combined 2001 and 2002 together, and we're going to do the same with 2003 and 2004 on this edition of the Mark Martin Podcast.
Yeah, so 2002 is really a good year. I mean, we came off of 2001, which had been the most dismal year of my career, and rekindle everything in 2002 and have a shot, nearly win the championship, have a shot at the championship, finish second, have a big, huge win in the Coca-Cola 600 with a Noble $5 million bonus. So we're feeling pretty good. You know, we're feeling really, really good. So we go into Daytona in 2003. Gosh, we come out with a fifth place finish. So things are really looking good. So then they go on to Rockingham and have a seventh there. And goodness gracious, we're off to a good start. Feeling like we're going to have another great year. And then we go to Vegas with 43rd, last place finish, and Atlanta and 42nd, next to last. So the bottom starts to try to drop out of our program at that point. We start, having some top five finishes here and there, but they're pretty sparse. Run fourth at Darlington and fifth at Texas, fifth at Richmond, second at Pocono. And then by that point, the bottom just does fall slap out. By the time we get to the first Pocono race, we've all decided that the bottom's fallen out after that, and it's just a lost cause from there on. If you thought the 2001 season was bad, now 2003 has really, really dropped out. So I don't know what happened. We started off running on adrenaline and momentum, but then, we just suck. Qualifying, finishing, everything. And it's more than bad luck. It's poor performance. And, so at that point, toward the end of the year, there's no hope in our deal. And so once again, Jack and I are talking about what are we going to do. And I'm looking here at this, and I don't remember making a crew chief change for the last race at Homestead, or the next last race actually at Rockingham. But I know that Jack and I start talking about crew chief changes. And back then, Jeff Burton and I both, we had the luxury of having a lot of say in what happened with our race teams and our programs. That's a luxury. It's also a burden, because you have to make decisions like getting, a new crew chief, and it's on me. Jack gives me the charge, go get you a new crew chief. So that's a luxury, but it's a curse. And let me tell you about the curse of it. So I start thinking about who I would like to have. And the problem that we have is Jack's always, still to this day, he first of all, I'm going to call him out and say he's tight. He's really tight with the money. Second of all, in his defense, I will say that he's operating 5 teams at this point. And so it could be seen as problematic for him if he paid one crew chief more than he paid another crew chief without good reason. And so, on the other hand, if I was Jack Roush, I'd say, but this is Mark Martin, and he helped me start this from the very ground, and he gets who he wants, and that's that. So I go and I pick out a crew chief, Tommy Baldwin. I decide I'd like to have Tommy Baldwin be my crew chief. Tommy gives me a number. I put him in touch with Jack, and Jack won't hire him because he wants too much money. So I got to pick my crew chief, but I can't have who I want. So I'm looking around and I say, well, I got to get a budget crew chief. I've got to make a change. So Pat Trison is crew chief in the 21 car. Ricky Rudd's driving it, and they're hauling butt. And I like Pat. Pat's a good dude. He's an up-and-comer, very much like Ben Leslie was. And I know it's going to be hard to do, but the affiliation with the Wood brothers at the time was with Jack. There was affiliation with cars, there was affiliation with motors, and stuff like that with the Wood brothers. So Jack had a good relationship with the Wood brothers. So Jack was able to extract Pat from the Wood brothers and get me Pat. So the stats say that Pat started crew chiefing at Rockingham the next to last race of the season. I don't remember that, but that doesn't mean it's not accurate. I remember, Pat being my crew chief for 04. And Pat and I had a good relationship. Pat was very aggressive in aero, and Pat brought some new things to the table for 04. So, that was something that we just had to do. 2003 was a disaster, basically a disaster in the performance department. So I guess I'll just move right on into 04.
Right. I mean, you go from 2003, and again, this is it's kind of like a up and down. It's like a roller coaster. You go from 2001 having a bad year, 2002 a good year, back down to 2003, and then we come back up in 2004. And I mean, for a guy like you that doesn't like a lot of change, you've had a lot of change within like a 5-year time span. And I mean, you were with Jimmy for a long time. I mean, what are you thinking? I mean, what's in Mark Martin's head in 2004 as you're sitting there, you have all this pressure of these big sponsorships and performing, and at that time NASCAR was really popping, big crowds, lots of money was getting thrown around. I mean, what's coming in your mind at that point in your career? I mean, it's pretty up and down at that point, right?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because really 2001 was a scary year for me because I was afraid after that performance, based on my age and all, I was afraid from my 2001 performance that I might not win another race, that my career might be on the downhill slide. But then 2002 came, and we had a stellar year. And so I thought everything was okay, going to be okay. But I knew it had gotten harder at this point in time for me to get the performance that I used to get. I knew that, I knew it was really a challenge, but we met that challenge in 2002. Well, in 2003, the bottom fell slap out of it again. So now I'm starting to feel pressure from Pfizer. They had signed up for more wins than what they were getting. And I had pressure from them. I had pressure from Jack. Jack was wanting me to do something. And yet, whenever I tried to do something, usually he wouldn't do it. Like during this time, I needed a fast tire changer, had a fast pit crew, but I had one tire changer that couldn't get the job done. And I went out and I recruited a tire changer, and Jack wouldn't pay him the money. So we had to have junior tire changers who were learning, and these were the kinds of things that frustrated me. And people don't understand when I say I got so frustrated. I was trying to win a championship, and yet if I had a slow tire changer, I couldn't go hire a fast tire changer. But it was on me to get a tire changer, but I had to get a budget tire changer. You see what I'm saying? Same thing with a crew chief. Thank God I got Pat Trison. I love Pat Trison. Pat Trison was as good as you could have got. But thank God I got him, because, I couldn't have Tommy Baldwin, because he wanted top crew chief money.
So a lot of the frustration that I'm sensing was, we're bringing in one of the biggest sponsorships in the entire industry, and you're choking us out. You're not giving us the budget and the people that we need, yet you have expectations that we should be winning races and championships.
This is kind of what was going on in my world. Yes, that is correct. And so, with the frustration of 2002 and having the championship in the bag in my eyes and throwing it away on engine reliability, and, not being able to fill a pit crew void or a crew chief change based on budget limitations that were largely, the excuse was, well, we can't do that because we don't pay the other guy, because there was 5 teams. And I'm like, dude, I don't care if we have 5 teams, and I don't care if my tire changer gets more than everybody else of the 5 teams. I've been there the longest. My time's up. I'm getting old. And I can't do this much longer. And I love Jack Roush to death. And he wanted me to win a championship so bad. He wanted it worse than I wanted it. I mean, for me. He wanted that championship for me, worse than I even wanted it. But yet, he felt he couldn't do the things that I felt like had to be done or needed to be done to put me in a position to race for it. So, yeah, I'm so frustrated. I'm out of my mind at this point in time. And the performance sucks. And so we go into 04, and we go to Daytona the world's center of pain. And we finished dead ass last, 43rd. Pat Tryson's our new crew chief, and so I'm looking forward to working with Pat. We go to Rockingham, run 12th, go to Vegas and run 5th. So, we've shown some speed, a little bit of hope. But we're not qualifying good. We're qualifying in the 20th every week, 20-something. That's not good. We go to Darlington, qualify 20th, finish 7th. So we're racing good. We're racing okay. We continue to bump along there. And then we go to my now favorite track, and that is Dover. We qualify 7th, and we win the race. And what's awesome about winning that race is, and this may not be the race that I'm thinking of. It may not be. But I think we won this thing on fuel mileage. And that was something that we had never done. We won one race or two races on fuel mileage, one for sure. And this is a really good, really good racetrack for me, Dover is. So getting that race win did a lot of good for us. But we still were inconsistent. We'd have a top 10, then a bad finish. We go to Pocono and run second again. We go to Watkins Glen and run third. We go to Michigan and run second. So we're really running good. We go to Dover the second time and run second. And then we go to Atlanta and run second. And then we go to Darlington at the end of the year and run second again. So, I got to say that even though we're very inconsistent and not a championship contending car, we're laying down some badass finishes at times. It's just at other times, we're having trouble. But I couldn't be, I really couldn't be more pleased with the crew chief change at this point. Pat and I get along really good. Pat does a great job, and I got a lot of love in my heart for Pat to this day, for him coming to Roush and getting me back on track and getting me in the winner's circle again. So, but still, if you look at the inconsistency of my year, it's very questionable. I'm pretty concerned about me being able to perform on the level that I had performed in the 90s. This reoccurs, with the 2001 season, the 03 season, and even though we win and run second several times, in 04, it's still haunting me. So we got some good runs, but we're not as consistent as I was in the 90s. So it's really on my mind at this point in time and weighing on me heavy. So as we look forward into 2005, this is all really weighing heavy on me. And 2005 is the contract year for Pfizer, and we have certainly not met what their expectations would have been from a performance standpoint. So 2005 will be pivotal for that reason, because we need to up our game in 05 or it's going to be sponsor hunting at that point in time. So
we'll get into 2005 at a later time, but uh, I don't think you can really put into words the enormity at that time of the sponsorships, the pressure. I mean, every week was almost a different paint scheme. That was when, back when NASCAR was just on fire with attendance and TV ratings and things like that. I mean, you said the pressure, and you said but I don't think that people can really realize the enormity of what it was at that time. It was a monster in those years, correct?
yes, it was. And we're talking about 43 car fields and having 50 cars show up. You're talking about 3 to 7 cars a race not making the race and going home. So the competition level is probably the toughest it's ever been right here during this era. But there's a lot going on, and it's a maddening, the everything is just wearing on you because the performance is not there. The competition is so severe. The fans are everywhere. They are all over. I mean, they're sold out racetracks. The pit road and garage area is mad. The fans are like rabid, and the traffic getting in and getting out of these racetracks is a nightmare. And everything about this thing is starting to just wear you down. It's so heavy on you. And all the competitors, I know Rusty Wallace is feeling the same way. I think that all that weight of the media and the fan access, no one can understand it that didn't live it, what it was like during that time, because it was just, you couldn't walk anywhere. You couldn't, if you walked into the garage or out of the garage, you were just mobbed by huge mobs of fans. And if you had to go to the bathroom or if you're in the, if you're in the garage and you had to leave the trailer to go to the bathroom, for example, or go to the driver's meeting or anything, it's just everything was so hard. It was so hard to get anywhere for one of the top 10 drivers, especially to get anywhere at the racetrack was just difficult. You just couldn't hardly make your way anywhere because of this just fans, and they loved it. But when they're all great, but you put 100 of them at a gate where you're trying to go through that gate, you can imagine what it's like. They're all nice people and all good intentions, but they all want a piece of you. And it was a real challenge.
So when it comes to your life now and your retirement, does a lot of that stem from just the energy that was pulled from you throughout all of those years and all of those obligations that you had to deal with? Is now it's like, okay, now is my time to kind of lay back and just be alone and do my thing?
Well, racing isn't as popular as it was, and I'm not a racer now, so all of that's gone away. So none of that bothers me now. When somebody recognizes me, it's one person or 2 or 3 in a group, and that's it. And then it doesn't happen again for a month. So that's not a big deal. The big deal was that every time you stuck your head outside of a door, you were besieged. And so that got to be a heavy load. And it got to be a heavy load for guys that, like Rusty Wallace. I bring him up because he and I had lengthy conversations, and he goes into 2005 and retires at the end of 2005. I don't think he would have retired that soon had it not been for that load. If the load was lighter like it is today, I think Rusty would have continued driving. I don't think the racing was what he was exhausted from. It was the appearances that were required and the load that it took to manage all the people and the fans and managing the media and the sponsor obligations. They were all just massive at this point in time. And so, yes, I mean, I really enjoy being retired and not having a job and not meeting a schedule. And yes, I just had an opportunity to go be a grand marshal at a short track. And they offered to pay me to come do that. And it would be fun to go do it even if they didn't pay me. But, you know, my first instinct is, nah, I don't want to go be, you know, I don't want to go be in all that crowd. You know, I don't know. That's a little, you know, that's a heavy load. You know what? I just think about all that stuff. Plus it's goofy COVID. You know, I don't want to be around all those people because I'm scared I'll get sick as well. So the COVID thing is crazy too. And I don't mean to date this podcast, but I'm doing that with that. But to answer your question, yeah, I really like not having a job. I really like not having to meet a schedule because it was so brutal from 1990 to 2014. It was just brutal.
And to kind of back that up, I mean, even after your retirement, you know, official retirement, you've had many opportunities that you could have went into TV, you could have done, you know, radio, different things like that, but you have turned that down, and for the mere fact that you wanted to slow down. I mean, you wanted to kind of have your own time after years and really decades of having all these obligations and having to be at all these places and do all of these things for sponsors, correct?
Yeah. I just really did. I wanted to slow down. It was time for me to open a new chapter in my life and not have to be excused from weddings and be excused from funerals and all those things. I had built up a little bit of bitterness because I was excused from everything family-wise because my racing always had to come first. You know, I had sponsors and hundreds of people that relied on me, and I couldn't ever let them down. And I couldn't miss a race, and I couldn't miss a practice, and I couldn't miss a test. And that's just how I rolled because the people depended on me. And so I was always excused from everything, and I didn't want to be excused anymore. I wanted to be able to open a new chapter and be a regular person and spend time with family and friends, develop friends so that I could be around friends and just a lot of different things like that. And it's something that I just didn't allow myself to do for 40 years.
And really the only obligation outside of that is this pain in the ass podcast, right?
Yeah, I'm going to keep hammering until I get all these years done because they are kind of a pain. And then once we get all those done, then we'll just do stuff that's fun. But for now, I feel it's important for my fans and for recording it down in history, sort of like doing a book where you just lay down your memories. There's a lot of cool things that we could do on this podcast, but for right now, we need to hit the high spots of the racing, and then we'll come back and have some guests and talk about racing, and that'll jog my memory, and there'll be stories like there have been on the other podcasts that I've done where we tell stories. But I'm going to tell stories, but I don't remember all of them as we go through each year. But it's important to lay down the years. The first 5 years was really fun because talking about the haulers and the trailers and all the crazy things. My memories up until 1982 are vivid. I can tell you almost everything about everything until then. But then once we got into NASCAR, they start running together and aren't nearly as vivid and a little less accurate. There's a lot of things that I just don't remember without having my memory jogged.
Well, we're going to get into more of that in the Mark Martin podcast. We're going to be wrapping up the years here pretty soon. And like Mark said, we're going to have some fun as time goes on. But this is episode number 42, 2003 and 2004 of the Mark Martin podcast.
Thank you for subscribing and listening to the Mark Martin podcast. Remember to give us a 5-star rating in your app store. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mark Martin POD. The Mark Martin podcast is a production of the Accelerated Podcast Network.